This illustration deals with the process for establishing and verifying a electrically safe work condition in accordance with 70E 120.5, 3 and 5. Now, the main purpose of the change that you see below here was to provide two new items to add to the process for establishing a electrically safe work condition. Now, as you see in the boxed in information here, that we would use the rated voltage tester with adequate testing. We want a tester that we could use that would be adequate to test with. Now, 110.3 in Article 110 of 70E that deals with general requirements. This is the 50 votes or more rule. 110.4 deals with less than 50 votes, and we are instructed there to make sure that we verify that the class 1, 2, or 3 circuitry, less than 50 volts, is not a shock hazard. Now we know class 2 is a gimme when we go to Article 100. Look up the definition of arc rating, and class 2 circuit is not considered a hazardous voltage for shock or electrical arc type condition. But class 1 and 3 may be, so we need to verify that. And that's what the 110.4 is given us. And then also the lock and tag out procedure itself, and to say we're supposed to perform it, is 110.6 A and B on page 18 of 70E. So review those. And then when you get ready to actually lock and tag out, as you see here in the illustration, we would go to 120.4B2I on page 22, and we would review the information there for locking and tagging out the electrical system. Now, mainly, for example, notice the item 2, verify the blades are open. So sometimes we would look in a sight glass windows you see here. That's talked about in 490.4 on page 358 of the NEC. And we would learn about a sight glass window that we could look through to see if those blades are open, or maybe just a disconnect that we could open up after we disconnect and check to see if the blades are open. Now that's kind of what we would be talking about in this item here. But the item 1, just starting off with, item 1 is to interrupt the supply current, verify the blades are open, check up-to-date drawings to ensure that, or as sure as possibly, that a backfeed couldn't come in some way and energize the circuit while we were working under certain conditions. And then use the proper tester that would be an adequate tester. Apply safety grounds if necessary. And we should always apply safety grounds where we could to ensure that if something was energized, backfeed of some source, we'd clear a device somewhere upstream. Use the proper PPE to do my testing and put it in an electrically safe work condition by lock and tagging it out. Release any storage electrical energy, such as capacitors that could have a storage energy that didn't automatically dissipate, say in 5 minutes or so through windings and so forth. Apply your lockout and tag out devices. Use the Brady tag. Do not operate under, a condition where we could energize the circuitry to a person working downstream, because we must always remember that the Brady tag, along with a unique lock, it kind of sends a signal that someone at equipment location or somewhere in the electrical circuitry is working under a lock and tag out procedure. And that's what this item's all about that you see here, applying the lock and tag out devices. Your lock has to be a unique lock used for that lock and tag out purpose only. Use the Brady tag for lock and tag out procedure. And we'll go through a lot more of this information if you get into the Annex G to 70E and the back of 70E. Now, locking, tagging out the electrical system, after that is done, then of course, you know, the person in charge can allow people to work in and around the equipment. And of course, now the last thing here, we want to make sure an application of this last bullet that 120.5, 1 through 7, has been carefully reviewed, checked, and understood before we try to apply a lock and tag out procedure. Now, there's more on lock and tag out procedure in Article 120 of 70E or our workbook that deals with the 70E document that goes completely through Article 120 that you could get a copy of it online if you so desired by just typing in Gray Boy, GRAYBOY, lowercase, grayboyincorporated.com. And then if you wanted to order a book, it will send you to Builder Book, that actually publishes our book. So you could even go to buildersbook.com and do the same thing. But that's mainly what this illustration is all about. And you notice in Article 100, page 13, again, we define this qualified person for locking and tagging out electrical system. If you go to 110.6A1, we go through the training rules. And then OSHA 1910.399 defines that person for electrical safety work conditions in accordance with the OSHA standard subpart S to OSHA 1910. So basically, that's what this illustration is all about, is adding items 2 and 5 as one of the requirements when you're placing electrical equipment or circuitry in electrically safe work condition.